If you are an Iranian national, an Iranian-American family member, a visa holder with ties to Iran, or anyone whose immigration status in the United States intersects with U.S. foreign policy toward Iran, the news coming out of Washington right now deserves your full and careful attention. Diplomatic developments between the United States and Iran do not stay confined to the world of international politics. They have a documented and very real history of flowing directly into the immigration system, affecting visa approvals, travel authorizations, entry permissions, and even the processing of green card applications. So today, we are going to walk through this topic with the seriousness and clarity it deserves, because understanding what is actually happening and what it could mean for your specific immigration situation is far more important than the headlines you may be reading on your phone. Let us begin with the broader context, because to understand how a potential Trump-Iran deal in 2026 could affect visas and immigration, you first need to understand the relationship between U.S. foreign policy and the U.S. immigration system. These two systems are far more deeply connected than most people realize. When the United States has diplomatic tensions with a foreign country, those tensions almost always produce immigration consequences. Visa issuance rates change. Country-specific restrictions are introduced or modified. Processing times for nationals of certain countries shift dramatically. And in some cases, entire categories of travel authorization are suspended, restricted, or subjected to enhanced scrutiny. This is not speculation. It is a well-documented pattern that has repeated itself throughout U.S. immigration history, and it is particularly relevant when we are talking about Iran. The relationship between the United States and Iran in the context of immigration has been exceptionally complicated for decades. Iranian nationals have faced some of the most significant immigration-related restrictions of any nationality in the modern era of U.S. immigration law. Many viewers of this channel will remember the travel ban that was first introduced in 2017 and later upheld by the Supreme Court in 2018. Iran was one of the original countries listed in that executive order, and Iranian nationals were subjected to severe restrictions on their ability to obtain non-immigrant and immigrant visas to enter the United States. Even when subsequent versions of the travel ban were modified for other countries, Iran remained on the restricted list. The consequences for Iranian families, students, professionals, and individuals with pending immigration cases were enormous. Visa applications were denied. Families were separated. Students who had been admitted to American universities could not obtain the visas they needed to attend. And green card applicants who were born in Iran faced unique and serious obstacles that applicants from other countries did not face. Now, in 2026, there are active diplomatic discussions between the Trump administration and Iran around a potential deal, and the immigration community is watching these developments very carefully. The critical question that many Iranian nationals and their families are asking is this: if a deal is reached, will immigration restrictions ease? And if the deal collapses or negotiations fail, will new restrictions be imposed? Both of these possibilities are real, and both have direct immigration implications that we need to discuss clearly and honestly. Let us talk first about what a potential diplomatic agreement between the United States and Iran could mean in positive terms for the immigration system. When countries move toward normalized or improved diplomatic relations, one of the practical downstream effects is often a gradual easing of visa restrictions. Consular officers receive updated guidance from the State Department. Country-specific processing rules may be relaxed. Visa interview scheduling, which has been extremely difficult for Iranian nationals due to the limited number of U.S. consular posts willing to process Iranian applications, could become more accessible. In theory, an improvement in diplomatic relations could also reduce the level of enhanced scrutiny that Iranian passport holders face when applying for non-immigrant visas such as the F1 student visa, the B1/B2 visitor visa, or employment-based visas. These are outcomes that many Iranian families have been hoping for over many years, and they are genuine possibilities if diplomatic progress continues in a meaningful direction. However, and this is an extremely important point that we want every viewer to internalize very clearly, diplomatic negotiations are not immigration policy changes. A diplomatic discussion, even a serious and advanced one, does not automatically or immediately translate into changed visa rules, modified travel restrictions, or updated USCIS processing guidelines. These are two separate tracks that move at different speeds and are controlled by different parts of the U.S. government. The State Department manages visa issuance and country-specific consular guidance. The Department of Homeland Security oversees entry determinations and immigration enforcement. USCIS handles the processing of immigration petitions and applications. And the White House, through executive orders and presidential proclamations, can direct changes that affect all of these agencies simultaneously. A deal with Iran, depending on its terms and its legal structure, could trigger changes at any or all of these levels, but the timing and the specifics of those changes are not something that anyone can predict with certainty right now. This brings us to a mistake that we see members of the Iranian immigrant community make during periods of diplomatic uncertainty, and it is a mistake that can have serious consequences. Some individuals, upon hearing positive news about diplomatic progress, begin to assume that visa restrictions have already been lifted or that their pending applications will now be processed differently. They make travel plans based on this assumption. They withdraw or modify immigration applications based on this assumption. They delay filing renewals or protective applications because they believe the situation is about to improve significantly. And then, when the formal policy changes do not materialize on the timeline they expected, or when negotiations stall or collapse, they find themselves in a much more vulnerable immigration position than they were in before. Please do not make decisions about your immigration case based on news about diplomatic negotiations. Wait for formal, official policy announcements before changing any aspect of your immigration strategy. Now let us talk about the other possibility, which is equally important to understand. Diplomatic negotiations can fail. Talks can collapse. Tensions can escalate rather than de-escalate. And in the context of US-Iran relations, history has shown that deterioration can happen quickly and can trigger immediate immigration consequences. We saw this pattern in 2019 when tensions between the United States and Iran escalated significantly following the withdrawal from the nuclear agreement. During that period, visa processing for Iranian nationals became even more difficult, security clearance requirements were extended, and the already challenging landscape for Iranian immigration applicants became more complicated. If current negotiations were to break down and relations were to worsen, it is entirely realistic to expect that similar or more severe immigration consequences could follow. For Iranian nationals who currently hold valid US visas, who are in the United States on F1, H1B, or other non-immigrant status, or who have pending immigration applications, this means that the current period of diplomatic engagement actually represents a window of relative stability that should be used wisely. If you have been delaying a visa renewal, a status extension, an adjustment of status application, or any other time-sensitive immigration filing, now is not the time to continue waiting. Filing your applications while the current diplomatic environment is at least partially open is far safer than waiting to see how negotiations unfold and potentially finding yourself needing to file during a period of escalation. Let us now specifically address some of the visa categories and immigration situations that are most directly affected by the state of US-Iran relations, because this is where many viewers need the most specific awareness. For Iranian students currently enrolled in American universities on F1 visas, the most important thing you need to understand is that your current status, as long as you are maintaining valid enrollment and following the rules of your F1 visa, is not immediately affected by diplomatic developments. However, your ability to travel internationally and re-enter the United States is where you face real risk. If you leave the United States during a period of heightened diplomatic tension, renewing or obtaining a new F1 visa at a consular post abroad can be extremely difficult or effectively impossible depending on the state of US-Iran relations at that time. Our strong awareness guidance for F1 students of Iranian nationality is to consult with your university's designated school official and with a qualified immigration attorney before making any international travel plans, regardless of how positive the current diplomatic news may sound. For Iranian professionals working in the United States on H-1B visas, the primary concern during periods of US-Iran diplomatic uncertainty is also related to international travel and visa stamp renewal. Your H-1B petition approved by USCIS is separate from the visa stamp in your passport that allows you to enter the United States. If your visa stamp expires and you need to renew it at a US consulate abroad, that process can be subject to country-specific restrictions and enhanced security clearance procedures that can take months or even years to complete. This is a situation that has affected many Iranian H-1B professionals in the past, and it remains a real risk depending on how the current diplomatic situation evolves. Domestic visa renewal options, where available, may be worth exploring with the guidance of a qualified attorney. For Iranian nationals with pending green card applications or adjustment of status cases, the immigration landscape is particularly complex. Country-specific restrictions that have applied to Iranian nationals in various forms over the years can affect immigrant visa availability, consular processing timelines, and in some cases the eligibility criteria for certain immigration benefits. If you are in the middle of a green card process and you have questions about how the current diplomatic situation affects your specific case, that is precisely the kind of question that requires personalized legal guidance from a qualified immigration attorney who understands both the current policy environment and your individual case details. For Iranian-American US citizens who have family members in Iran seeking immigrant visas or who have petitioned for family members, the situation is one of continued uncertainty that diplomatic progress could potentially improve but has not yet formally changed. The National Visa Center processing and consular interview scheduling for Iranian beneficiaries has been deeply affected by the restricted state of US-Iran relations for years. An improvement in diplomatic relations, if it produces formal changes in consular operations, could meaningfully accelerate these cases. But again, waiting for those formal changes before adjusting your strategy is the appropriate approach. There is one more dimension of this situation that we want to address because it affects a group of people who sometimes feel overlooked in these discussions. Iranian Americans who are US citizens or lawful permanent residents and who travel to Iran for family reasons, humanitarian reasons, or any other purpose, face a unique set of considerations when re-entering the United States. CBP officers have broad discretion at ports of entry, and the state of US-Iran diplomatic relations can influence the environment in which those interactions occur. Travelers with recent travel to Iran, with dual citizenship, or with family or professional ties to Iran may face additional questions during entry processing. This is not a reason to avoid necessary travel, but it is a reason to be well prepared, to carry all relevant documentation of your US status, and to understand your rights during the entry inspection process. Throughout all of this complexity, the single most important thing that any Iranian national or Iranian-American can do right now is stay informed through reliable sources and work with qualified professionals when making immigration decisions. The diplomatic situation is fluid. It will continue to develop in ways that are difficult to predict. But the fundamental principles of immigration preparedness, filing on time, maintaining valid status, understanding your travel risks, and consulting professionals when your situation is complex, those principles apply regardless of what happens in the diplomatic sphere. We want to make sure that you have access to reliable, timely immigration information as this situation continues to develop. If you are not already subscribed to Global Immigration News, we encourage you to subscribe now and turn on your notifications. Every time there is a significant development in US immigration policy that affects Iranian nationals, visa holders, or any other immigrant community, we will be here to explain it clearly, professionally, and in a way that actually helps you understand what it means for your life. We also want to remind you about our WhatsApp channel, where we send out immediate alerts when important immigration news breaks, including any formal policy changes related to US-Iran diplomatic developments. The link to join is in the description below, and we strongly encourage you to follow it so you are never the last to know about something that could affect your immigration case. To summarize the most important points from today's video, diplomatic negotiations between the United States and Iran in 2026 have real potential immigration implications, both positive and negative, depending on how those negotiations unfold. Do not make immigration decisions based on diplomatic news alone. Wait for formal, official policy changes before modifying your filing strategy or your travel plans. Iranian nationals on F1, H-1B, and other visas face particular risks around international travel and visa renewal that exist regardless of the current diplomatic environment. Pending green card cases and family-based immigrant visa petitions may be affected by any formal changes that emerge from diplomatic progress, but those changes have not yet materialized in official policy. And throughout all of this, preparation, timely filing, and qualified professional guidance are the most powerful tools available to you. Stay informed, stay prepared, and we will continue to bring you the immigration clarity you deserve.